we do have a couple of bits of news to talk about. And we have some Bat family news. Some Bat books are going to be crossing over and something of an event. Although, to be honest, as I read this article, it really sounds like more just there's an arc coming up in Batman, which is the heavily teased stuff with Scarecrow and Simon Saint and the Magistrate formation and all that. And that's going to be issues 112 through 117. But what's interesting is that some of the tie-in crossover elements that are in the other books, which to be fair, all feel part of the same world right now, so it actually feels quite justified that they're being affected.
I think the biggest thing for me that makes it feel, I don't want to say event, because I think that's still like overselling it, but more than just a random thing is it's launching a new book through this event.
I mean, even this week's Catwoman like tied in more to what the current going-ons of Gotham are right now. So it doesn't feel cheap for them to sort of incorporate them in some way. But what's interesting here is that the month before this, so August, which is kind of what we're teasing here because that's what the next solicits are going to be, is going to have two of the current books tying in to this. It's called Fear State, for the record. It's a horror-themed event, which makes sense given it's Scarecrow, and this will be running through October, obviously.
And feels like a natural place. As we've been teasing the Scarecrow stuff already. This just feels like the culmination of where we're going.
Yeah. So Catwoman and Harley in August will have their issues will be tying into this, and presumably be some sort of a prologue to the main event, which is the main Bat book, starting the following month. But there's also two one-shots in August, and we have I Am Batman issue 0, which is by John Ridley, and is about Jace, and is basically expected to be launching a new book about Jace.
So does it specify that it's a one-shot and not just a 0 issue to be followed by issue 1 the following month?
Hold on, I'm not at that section yet. I've went past that section. There's a lot of text in this, because they did solicit text for every single one of these issues they're talking about. So yeah, I Am Batman issue 0 by John Ridley, which is a 40-page book, which is probably where I took one shot from.
Yeah, if it's actual solicit text, it usually says one shot, if it is one.
Well, it's not solicit, it's not got all the info.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Was with it. It's just the paragraph, but they all have covers, so it feels like solicit looking in the article.
Fair enough.
So yeah, so that seemingly, the fact that it's called issue 0, presumably that means that the Jace ongoing Bat book is going to be called I Am Batman, and that's where we're going with it. So that's kind of neat. But then there's a one shot at the end of the month as well, which is Batman Fear State Alpha issue 1, which presumably means that whenever this whole thing ends, there's going to be a one shot called Fear State Omega issue 1 or something to that effect. Which they've done before. Marvel have done it a bunch of times as well with the crossovers and events. That's the one that probably is the most like need to read if just for the main Bat story, because obviously it's Tynion who's doing that one shot. As you
say, obviously, as if you'd told us that.
I think it's obvious. I think that's fair to say that's obvious.
Well, I didn't know that. I hadn't read this article yet.
I mean, it's a one shot about what's going on in Batman. Of course, Tynion's the most likely candidate to be writing it.
Sure, most likely, but still,
Yes, and then the story takes place in 112 through 117 in Batman. Because that was the thing, as I was reading this article, it was telling me about Harley and Catwoman, and it was telling me about the one shot. I was like, okay, this is all kind of weird and whatever. And it specifically mentions that the one shot is not the conclusion to the event. The one shot is the conclusion to August's part of the event. And I was like, well, presumably, like the rest of it has to be in Batman itself, because that's what they've been building to in that book. And sure enough, yes, it does confirm at the bottom that issues 112 through 117 are indeed the story itself.
The only other interesting thing that we haven't really mentioned yet, or at least I think is interesting, is that it also mentions it's following on from the events of Infinite Frontier 0. By the sounds of it, equally as much as just the general events of Batman recently. So that seems quite interesting to me. I was like, okay, what's going to go on in that issue, that's setting up that event that's then going to ripple not just into its own event, but into this Bat story as well.
Before I make fun of you, I'm just going to confirm something. Because I'm sure of something.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, Infinite Frontier Zero came out in March, you idiot.
Oh, is that one? Okay.
And it set up some of the stuff that Batman's already doing. So that's,
okay, that's that issue. All right, okay, fair enough.
I wanted to double check before I really made fun of you for it.
Look, I forget the names. I've just Infinite Frontier. I'm like, oh, we haven't had that event yet. I know it's coming, and it's solicited, and I know Final Order Cutoff is this week actually, because that's why it was on my mind.
Yes.
And I was like, what's going on in that event? But fair enough, Zero. That set up the A-Day stuff. I remember that now.
Yes. There was a moment there as you were talking, we're like, it sounds like he doesn't know what he's actually talking about here. And then you actually said, I don't know what's going to happen in that issue. And I'm like, wait a minute.
I just forgot which issue. I forgot that issue was called Infinite Frontier Zero. I remember all the events of that issue. I just forgot the name of it.
You prefaced that by saying it was the most interesting thing that you wanted to talk about.
I didn't say the most interesting. I said the only other interesting thing that we haven't really mentioned yet. Did not say most interesting thing.
The only interesting thing. Okay.
That we had not yet talked about.
There is a giant variant amalgamation that you can get. The 6 issues of Batman that are going to be part of the story all have variants that all form a big image.
One of those.
Yeah, but it's not in a row. It's it's like 2 rows of 3, so it's a big square image.
That's probably neater.
Yeah,
6 issues all across is long.
Yeah, so yeah, it's at the bottom of the article. You can go look at it if you want.
Yeah, I'm seeing it now. It's quite nice.
That's all right. So that's good. The one upside is that when you get to read Harley Quinn issue 6, you get a reprieve from Rosmo, because Rosmo's not the artist on the main story. He's doing the cover still, the main cover, but
I can live with covers. Small mercies. Who is on art?
Where are we? Laura Braga is on art.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Laura Braga did the art that we were not critical on, but slightly disappointed by in Future State. And the main Bat, I think it was the main Bat book. The one that had someone else on the first issue, I think that we really enjoyed, who I'm completely blanking on who that was.
It was Dick's Batman. I mean, it was fine. The art was actually really good. It was just because it was after the other artist that it felt a bit.
It was a step down, yeah. But I mean, that's solid art. I mean, compared to Rosmo, it's going to feel like a giant leap up, I'm sure.
Yeah. Blanco's still on Catwoman 34 though, which is that month. There's no change in the Catwoman artist, which is good.
Yeah.
So it's and just for the record, it's Travel Foreman who's doing art on the John Ridley I Am Batman
issue. Did the art on the Second Son, the Digital First series. So that basically is just a direct continuation, it seems like, in pretty much all respects.
Yeah, it feels very much like the Second Son as a prologue, and then this is kind of where the real story with them kind of kicks off. So, all neat stuff. A lot of bad stuff. Or it's not even that a lot of bad stuff's coming. I mean, there's a couple of there's one new book and there's an extra one shot, I suppose. But it's more so much that everything that the Bat world is building to it's actually going to pay off in a big sort of story that's going to ripple through all the corners of it, which is how you should do a sort of event style thing that the other books tie into, because it feels like they're all part of it anyway.
It feels like there is some very good editorial work going on at DC right now.
I think that's true. I won't necessarily say across the board, but certainly in the bigger families right now, it feels like there's a good consistency between them.
I agree, which is why I didn't specify just in the Bat family. I just, in DC in general right now, I think the editorial departments are all doing a real good job.
Is it possible that Didio's exit and the others who went around that same time were actually for the best?
It's not impossible. Yeah.
The other news that I've got here is that have you missed those 80th anniversary 100-page super spectaculars? Because there's one coming at the end of August.
Bloody hell, I haven't even read last month's 100-pager yet. Or last week's, whenever it was.
Last week's, yeah. Yeah, but that wasn't an anniversary. That was a
That was a special.
That was a
yes.
special for a good cause. This was celebrating a character's birthday, essentially. So Aquaman is the one who's up next for the treatment. End of August, 100-page, $10 book. The whole host of creators: Dan Jurgens, Jeff Johns, Brandon Thomas, Chuck Brown, Stephanie Phillips, Michael Moretti, Margaret Bennett, Dan Waters, Jeff Parker, Becky Cloonan, and Francis Manipal. Interestingly, some of those names are obviously equally, if not more, associated with the art, but that's not the artist list. The artist list includes Steve Epting, which is a biggie, Paul Pelletier, Valentine DeLandro, Henry Paraceta, Pop Man, Trungles. Who's Trungles? I feel like I'd recognize Trungles when I see that in a list.
To be fair, I do recognize most of these names. Yeah, Trungles is not one.
Yeah, Miguel Medoncha, Doc Schrader, and more to be announced. So
I would say, obviously, the writers list there heavily outweighs the artist list that we've been given so far. So it's possible that some of those writers are also drawing their own as well.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Manipul's doing his own art.
Manipul definitely. Cloonan could go either way, because obviously Cloonan's writing quite a bit at the minute, including Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Honestly, the most exciting thing out of that list for me is just seeing Jeff Parker's name there again, because I've not seen him in a DC book in a while. And
I'm down for more Dan Waters as well, personally.
And I really liked his stuff on Aquaman at the time, so
that was fun. We didn't get enough of it.
Yep. So I am pleased with that. So there you go, Aquaman 80th anniversary, super spectacular. They still call it a super spectacular, or am I just saying that because all the last ones were? It is. It's still a super spectacular. All right.
It is. Yes.
Okay. Good to know.
Complete with all the decade variants as well.
That'll be funny. His hair's going to just grow each cover.
Yeah. I'm just looking at them like, Robson Roker for the 2010s. I'm like, yeah, that's probably a fair representation of 2010s Aquaman. Yeah.
Simonson for the 60s. That's an interesting one.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. Yeah.
That's neat. That's neat. So there you go. If anything, the only robbery there is no. What's his face? From 25 onwards, come on.
Sejic.
Sejic, yes. There's a lack of Sejic in those variant covers. I know Sejic's wanting to do less, work for hire, do more creator own stuff and whatnot, but a variant cover won't kill the bastard, will it? I don't think it would.
I don't know. Who knows? He did have some health issues, I think, that slowed him down. So maybe it would.
True. I mean, if that's the case, fair enough.
Tweeting out, and it has been confirmed by Newsarama that the orders for Nice House on the Lake are currently over 100,000 copies for issue 1.
Well, that's good.
I know. We were talking a few weeks ago about his sales on Something's Killing the Children, and how that must be outselling Batman. Batman apparently at the minute is selling 200k plus an issue at the minute. Consistently. Again,
I'm just going to say, it's funny how within a year of all of our ways of seeing the numbers disappearing, that all of a sudden everything's selling so well.
I will say part of that is there are a lot of variants going on right now for like Batman such.
It's also very good right now. I mean, that's also another factor.
That helps, yeah. And I will say, these are being as independently verified as someone like Newsarama can do. I have to take their word for it that they're verifying this officially, and they're not just making up bullshit because
that means comics are in a better place than they were the last time we had consistent sales figures, and it definitely means that Tynion's stock as a creator is through the roof, which is fine, good news, because I like his work. I
actually think it's very plausible that comics are in a better place right now, because I think everyone got stuck at home for a year, and I'm sure a lot of people started reading more stuff, including comics, and maybe some of them stuck with it.
True. I wonder how it's affected digital as well, because for a long time getting to a store or waiting for very long delayed deliveries and things like that, I wonder if that drove digital up a little bit and maybe got a few people used to it.
Could well have actually, yeah. Just like
especially outside the US, where deliveries became very infrequent and very
yes. I mean, even in markets like the UK, where we're pretty consistent with comics on the US schedule, we had problems.
It was bad in the UK, but you have to imagine the UK is one that would probably fare better than a lot of other places, given how other places get things late in general anyway, never mind during the last year. So, yeah, I'd be very curious to see that, but hey ho.